I spent the first half of my career in nutrition, and I spent the second half of my career in helping people buy franchises. And I'm very proud of the fact that I have done things that change people's lives. And I've also learned some themes around life change that are challenging at times. And there's two specific themes that stick out to me after 22 years of trying to help people change their lives. You know, just to put that in perspective, what I mean, right? In nutrition, that might be lose weight, gain muscle. I don't feel good. I want to feel better. I want to look better, right? In helping people buy businesses, we all know what that is. I don't like my job or whatever, and I want to move into franchise ownership. But after 22 years, what I realize is every single person that I have ever helped with life change or tried to help with life change has two common themes.
Trying to reach my goals, got no time for mistakes. Yeah, I'm standing on business, need a big safe. Suited up, got the blueprint in the briefcase. It's go time on the grind, needs a big stakes.
Broadcasting from the Franchise Sidekick studio, welcome to the Sidekick Life. Get ready for stories of passion, problem solvings, and success from those living life on their terms.
Good morning, good morning. I gotta be honest, I don't do really well with rounds of applause, so thank you, that felt good. Of course, thank you. You know, that's what I got to kick this thing off with is just a huge thank you for being here. It is always humbling and never lost on me that you all take time away from your families, from your businesses, you spend money, you take travel time, all to come out here and do this, to share time with us. And I hope that we make it worth your time today. So I'm Ryan Zink with Franchise Sidekick, and I'm really excited to talk about this year's Skip event. Everybody so far has said everything's gone well, and I said, well, just give us time. I'm sure we'll mess something up, but hopefully you can't tell. Before we move into what the heck are we going to do to provide some value, I just always like to look back to where have we been. So lots of you had said, hey, congrats on your first year of Skip. Well, actually, this is kind of our second year. So if you think about first year of Skip, this was it. This was last year's Skip. We had about 100 of you in our office. Our office is here in Omaha. And, Michael Judkins, our CEO, he always just scares the heck out of me because we did this thing the same day we opened our office. We're putting furniture up over here. I literally am like putting together a table in my office, and we're putting pictures on the wall on this side as all of you are walking in this other door. But it turned out well. It was a great event. It was a good little crawl for us before we jumped into this bigger event. And we are really excited to have you here and talk about what this year's going to look like. And we've got a jam-packed agenda. And the hard thing for me is, what do you do for the Mount Rushmore of franchising? What do you do for people that go to these all the time? How do you provide value? And so we've decided that we don't want this just to be you guys telling us about your brands. Obviously, that's a huge part of it. But we also want to give something back. And if you're going to give back to people that are on the road as much as you are, it's got to be really good, right? So we're going to tell you more about that agenda. But first, I just want to share with you three things that I'm most excited about. Number one, and this again, Michael style with me, he said, hey, I think that we should have a keynote speaker. I said, that's a good idea, right? Let's get somebody that people will be excited about. Can you go and try to figure that out? And so he comes back a couple weeks later, and I go, did you find it? Did you find the keynote speaker? He goes, you know what, I did, but I got a surprise. I'm like, what's the surprise? He goes, I found 4, and I think we should go with all 4 of them. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, how do we do 4? And he goes, just listen, just let me tell you more about these people. And so he told me about every single one of them, and I'm like, I think you're right. If we're going to do this right, especially for our inaugural event, let's go ahead and put 4 people on the stage. So I'm so excited. I'm going to tell you more about all 4 of them here in a little bit, but I'm just really pumped for the 4 people that we have here. Second thing that I'm really excited about, and this was inspired from a trip that I took with my entrepreneur group. So we are doing a sing-off spectacular. And I don't know about you guys, but have you ever been with a group of friends and you're just out and you're like, what are we going to do tonight? And all of a sudden somebody's like, let's pull the karaoke machine out. And you kind of look at each other like, come on, man, seriously? You're like side-eyeing each other. Are we really going to pull the karaoke machine out? But somebody decides to pull it out, and the brave person goes first, and all of a sudden you're like, that's not so bad, and you keep going. And an hour later, people are requesting songs, and they're belting out music, and by the end of the night, you're like crying, and you're hugging. You're like, what song are we going to end on? That's what I went through. Me and my wife, we went through that with our EO group about a year ago, and I'm like, man, if we can do this with our real-world friends, why can't we do that with our franchise friends as well? But, it can't just be like this regular old karaoke contest. That's kind of boring. So we're like, how do we do this franchise style? We are in a room full of competitive people. How do we make it interesting to them? So this is what we decided to do. We invited all of you to participate, and 9 individuals or groups signed up. They told us their song. We sent out our list of criteria, which is like choreography and on tone and all these different things. For any of you that were in Charlotte, do you guys remember that Queen's Court band that ended it, right, Jen? That band was just phenomenal. Again, Michael's like, why don't we fly them in? Let's just fly them in. This 9-person band, let's fly them in to be the backup for the karaoke. So we're like, Okay, we did that. So they're coming in. They're going to be the backup to the karaoke contest. And then just to cap it all off, again, for competitive people, we're like, what do we really do to make this over the top? And we said, well, let's give away $10,000. So we have a $10,000 prize package given away over the top 3 out of these 9. So I hope you can make it. It's going to be Thursday night. It's going to be a ton of fun. You guys are my franchise family, and so I hope we're just crying and doing the same thing that I did with my real world group. Okay, and then the third thing that I'm excited about is we are going to introduce to you this thing called the Great Scots. And the Great Scots are the Franchise Sidekick Awards. I know they're a little bit of an interesting name. We're going to explain that to you later. But the reason this is one of the things I'm most excited about is because this is our way to recognize those of you who help us in our mission. Our mission is to reduce the risk for our clients when buying a franchise. And our Great Scots are to recognize those of you that have helped us do that the best. It's going to be an awesome night. It is tonight, and that's probably the thing that I'm most excited about, the celebration of all of us together. Right? Okay, so let's keep moving on. Yeah, as you heard, our theme this year is Let's Roll. And many of you in this room are leaders. And if you're a leader like me, I like to come up with these types of themes to get people kind of organized. What are we going to do? What do we rally around? And how are we going to go about doing it? And so we kicked around a lot of ideas coming into the year, and we landed on Let's Roll. But the thing about Let's Roll for us, it didn't just inspire one idea. It was actually 2 meanings, which are 2 very important meanings for a company that's in our stage. So the first Let's Roll is what I call the ready to go Let's Roll. So this is the Let's Roll you say when you're ready to do something important. And I like to teach in stories, I guess. And so imagine that you love to fix up old cars, right? And you get your hands on a GT 500 Shelby Mustang. This is like one of the most iconic Mustangs, right? It's beat up, but you don't care. You're excited about the process of making it look good. So you pull it into your garage, and for 2 years, you go in there every night, and you're pulling parts off, you're putting parts on, you're sanding, you're connecting tubes, you're turning a wrench. Finally, you're kind of getting to the end here. You put the cherry red paint on, you throw the dice in the mirror, and you're like, I think we're ready to go. So what do? You call your spouse out or somebody that you love. You say, I want you to be in shotgun with me. You pull up that garage door. You put your left hand on the wheel. You turn the key. The horsepower is revving, right? You're proud of what this thing is. What do you turn and say to the person right next to you? Let's roll. We're ready to go. Let's roll. Let's get this thing out on the road. So why does that matter here? That's what we felt like coming into 2024, right? As a leader, I wanted people to feel like, man, we got the cherry red paint on this thing. Let's show it off. So ready to go, let's roll was theme number 1 for us. But I also think that's a trap. And here's what I mean. If you feel your Mustang is done, it's never going to get better. It's never going to be the fastest car on the road. It's just always going to be right where it is, right? And we knew that Sidekick was nowhere near where we wanted it to go. And so if you've ever heard me speak before, there's a very high chance you've heard me talk about my favorite book of all time, written by a guy named Jim Collins, called Good to Great. And in chapter 5 of Good to Great, Jim Collins writes about this concept called the flywheel. And it's a metaphor for getting a business going, getting the momentum going. You hear the word momentum from us all the time. And so imagine, this is what Jim says, imagine starting your business as like this several 1,000-pound flywheel right next to you. It's about 5 times as tall as you, weighs thousands and thousands of pounds. It's made out of steel, and your only goal is to roll it. Right? Oh, I could roll this thing, no problem. Like when we start a business, I'm going to get going lickety-split. It's going to be a piece of cake. Then all of a sudden you go and you put your hand on that flywheel and you're like, boom, boom, boom. Oh man, this thing's pretty heavy. Okay, I can do it. And you kind of put a hand in and that's not doing anything. And then you put 2 hands into it and that's not doing anything, right? Your business, what's that? It's like calling a customer and they say no. You knock on another door and they say no. Okay, well, I'm going to put my shoulder into it. Oh, that's not doing anything. I'm going to put my back into it. That's not doing anything. And you're just getting lower and lower and pushing harder and harder, and nothing is happening. That's business. That's oftentimes the start of business. Nothing is happening. But you, as the person responsible, you have to have all this faith that you're going to be able to move this thing, even though it hasn't moved yet. And then all of a sudden you're pushing for days and days, and you get to like a week, and it goes, with that, somebody's willing to take your phone call or whatever that is, right? Okay, I got a little bit of momentum. I'm going to keep pushing. And you keep pushing, and you're pushing for like a month, and it's like, a little bit further. And this, every little bit of movement just gets you a little bit more excited for that next phase. So you're pushing and pushing and pushing. Finally, you're pushing for like 6 months, and it starts to pick up. And you're pushing for a year, and maybe you get an evolution. But you're not done, right? So you're pushing 2 years, and you get 2 evolutions. 3 years, and you get 3 evolutions. And the idea is eventually, after a tremendous amount of effort, that flywheel, because it's so big, the momentum is going to propel on itself, and it's just going to keep going without much effort from you. You as the leader no longer need to be the one sticking your shoulder in it. That's what we all want to get to. But we're not there. Sidekick is nowhere near that yet. And so why I say ready to go, let's roll as a trap is because we can't forget that we are very much in the building momentum. Let's roll. We got to roll this thing. So that's what it means for us. But what does it mean for you? So we've got a let's roll that is called, I call it a physical action let's roll. And what this one means to me is this represents this event tonight. So tonight we are going to bring in some casino tables. We are going to roll craps. We are going to play cards. And again, you guys are going to love Michael Judkins because he does it the right way, and Madison and everybody else. We've got amazing prizes. So you're going to keep your chips. We're going to give away some prizes. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be awesome. And that represents us networking together. That represents us creating relationships together. So then when we're all holding each other during karaoke, it doesn't feel awkward, right? But this is the big one. This is the one that I'm going to spend the rest of my time talking about. This is the one that our entire event is circled around. This is the one that I think impacts your day every single day in what you do. And it's called the no turning back. Let's roll. And here's what I mean by this. Well, actually, before I tell you what I mean by this, I want to tell you a little bit about what my career has been in. So I've spent 22 years of my career in life change. I spent the first half of my career in nutrition, and I spent the second half of my career in helping people buy franchises. And I'm very proud of the fact that I have done things that change people's lives. And I've also learned some themes around life change that are challenging at times. And there's two specific themes that stick out to me after 22 years of trying to help people change their lives. You know, just to put that in perspective, what I mean, right? In nutrition, that might be lose weight, gain muscle. I don't feel good. I want to feel better. I want to look better, right? And helping people buy businesses, we all know what that is. I don't like my job or whatever, and I want to move into franchise ownership. But after 22 years, what I realize is every single person that I have ever helped with life change or tried to help with life change has two common themes. Number one, every single one of them have some pain in their life, without exception. Some people's pain are really big, other people's pain are very small, but there is some pain that they want to move away from. I want to look better. I don't want to work weekends. I want a better purpose. I want something for my kids to be proud of, right? I want to move away from some sort of pain. Well, awesome, because I want to take you up there. I want to take you from this pain all the way up there into life change. Let's get going. But then all of a sudden that let's get going phase kicks in, and that's the second truth of life change that has been consistent with every single person. At that moment of truth, at that moment of let's do this, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this massive wall comes up right in between pain and life change, right here in the middle. And that's got barbed wire on top, and it's got a moat around it, and there's crocodiles all in that thing, and I call that the status quo wall. That is the wall that gets them thinking, do I really want to go through the pain of getting to life change? It's not so bad. Sitting here in this job, my boss is kind of a jerk, but it's not so bad. You know, being out of shape, do I really want to eat different and work out every day? Maybe it's not so bad just to do this, right? Status quo gets in the way. Status quo is our enemy. Pain is what we want to move away from, and status quo is our enemy, moving people into what they really want with their life. And I think we are in an industry that has the biggest status quo wall of all, right? We know that the purchase that they do with us in buying a franchise is usually going to be the largest financial purchase of their life with the largest time commitment of their life, outside of maybe buying a home and marriage, right? I mean, everything else, this is the biggest part. And we know the stats in our industry. 1 out of 300 people who engage in a franchise ad ever move forward. So 99.9% of the people that want to move into franchise ownership never do it. And then when you get a lead looking at one of your brands, what's that look like? Well, first off, before we think about what that looks like, let's think about what they have to do to get there. So imagine that it's a Sidekick client that comes to your brand. Just for us to get them to you, we've had to put out an ad. They've had to engage in that ad. They've had to click on it and put their information in. One of our wonderful specialists has had to reach out to them. They've had to pick up the phone, give us their financial information, say they understand what franchise ownership is, say they've got the 12 weeks or whatever it's going to take to go through the development process. They then have to schedule them with one of our advisors who's got to get on a 30-minute phone call where they've got to turn on a Zoom, look them in the eye, go through a presentation. We then have to send them a link that they fill out for another 30 minutes so we can understand their business preferences. Then our advisor gets back on the phone or on the Zoom with them for an hour, goes through the opportunities that we think match them. They have to agree. They have to be introduced to somebody on your team who then schedules one with you just so they can get on your calendar. That's a huge commitment before they even get to you. And then once they get to you, you're going to say, hey, do you have the 8 to 12 weeks that I'm going to need from you to really understand this opportunity? And they're going to say, you bet I do. And then they're going to start into that process. And you know what the numbers tell us once they do all of that? 90% of them are going to say no, or just not talk to you ever again. They're just going to go away, right? 90%. We have a massive status quo wall right in the middle of pain into that life change that we want to give them. Big crocodiles. And so this example here, this no turning back, is a picture of the theme, burn the boats. I'm sure many of you have heard burn the boats. And I want to tell you a little bit about the backstory here. So Hernando Cortez, he was an explorer back in the 1500s, and he's sitting over in Cuba. He's sitting in Cuba with 500 men, 11 ships, 16 horses, and he's looking over at Mexico, and he's saying, the Aztecs are over there in Mexico. And the Aztecs, they have the biggest treasure in the world. And he goes to his guys, and he's like, hey, let's go take that treasure. And they're like, Hernando, you're kind of crazy, man. I mean, they've sat on that treasure for 600 years. Nobody has ever been able to take it from them, and many people have tried. And he's like, but don't you want to live a better life? Don't you want life on your terms? Don't you want your name to live forever? And they're like, yeah, let's go. So they all jump on the ship, and they start sailing over there. But you know what I think they're thinking, or what I might be thinking? If you're sailing over there, you're like, a lot of people have tried this before. Everybody has failed. So as soon as that kind of first line of people don't have success, we're all going to hightail it back to the ships, and we're going to sail back to Cuba, smoke our cigars. It's going to be awesome, right? And Hernando knows this. As a leader, he knows that status quo wall is his problem. So they pull up onto the beach, they jump off the boats, they pull all their horses and their equipment off. He rallies them together to tell them about this one last final speech. And instead of giving them this leadership speech, I kind of imagine he snaps his fingers and all the boats burn. And now he's got 500 guys sitting there staring at him saying, oh my goodness, my status quo is gone. So what's that mean? It means win or die. Now, I'm pretty sure you know the end of the story, otherwise we wouldn't be talking about it. They win, right? They go and they take over the Aztecs and, all that good stuff. And they win. And, this is a great leadership story of what we are trying to accomplish as well. How do we get people to leave that status quo, leave that pain, overcome that status quo wall into life on their terms? And I would bet many of you have had your own burn the boats moment. And what better way to learn than just kind of reflecting on what we've done in our own lives? And so I look at my own burn the boats moment. My burn the boats moment came when I was 24 years old, and I was traveling the country going into GNC stores. Actually, many of you here, some of you I should say, were part of that world with me, so thank you if you were and you're still here. That was pretty awesome. And I worked for a guy who had the most successful GNC stores in the country. And he had created a better model with some exclusive products. And so my job was now to travel the country and teach other GNC franchisees how to do this. And I specifically remember this day. I'm down in Houston, Texas. I'm 24 years old, and I'm excited. I am going to go into a store where this owner has 8 locations, right? And I get to go into his mall store, the busiest store that he has. I'm pumped up because if I do a good job and he buys our products, I get a piece, right? I get a little commission off of that. So I was really excited about the opportunity. And I go down there, and I'm already a couple hours in advance. He pulls his managers into the store. We go through training 2 hours before, and then the opening bell dings, right? And we get it going. Customers are coming in. I'm showing them how to do it. First hour is the best hour they've ever had. Second hour is the best hour they've ever had. Third hour is the best hour they've ever had. All day long, we're having the best hour they've ever had, and the managers are excited, and I'm excited. I'm like, I can't wait for the owner to come in and see this. It's going to be awesome. He's going to buy a ton of product. All of a sudden, lunch goes by. He's not there. The afternoon snack goes by. He's not there. Dinner goes by. He's not there. And before I know it, it's like 15 minutes before close, and the phone rings. And he talks to the manager there, and he's like, how's the day? And the manager, she goes, it's great. It's the best day we've ever had. Our managers are super excited to do this. He says, fantastic. Keep doing whatever Ryan tells you to do. Goodbye. And I was like, wow. I mean, I traveled down to Houston. I navigated to his store without a GPS, right? This is before GPS. That was tricky. I go to his store. I spent 2 hours training them. I spent all day, which is a very long day, in there working every single customer to show them how to do it. We had the very best day. So literally just created a situation that could potentially change his life, change the trajectory of his stores. He doesn't even tell me thank you. He just says, keep doing whatever he's doing. So I go back to the hotel that night. I have a nightcap with a coworker, and I tell him, I'm like, man, I'm sick of this. I know I have what it takes. I'm so underappreciated by these people when I come down here. I know I have what it takes. I go into their stores every day and I prove it. I'm going to open my own GNC store. So I go home, I fill out the application, I send it to GNC, I wait 30 days to get the letter. They send me the letter, I rip it open, and we're sorry to inform you, you're broke, right? You have no money. Yeah, that made sense. Okay, I can't open a GNC store, but I was pretty committed. I was like, I want to be a franchisee. And so lucky for me, Anytime Fitness was developing as well. And so I applied to them. They were newer, so they accepted me even though I was broke, right? And they said, congratulations, you've been approved to become an Anytime Fitness franchisee. Now, here's what I learned about Burn the Boats. I thought as soon as I got that letter, I was going to immediately run in, quit my job, sign the franchise agreement, become a franchisee. But you know what happened? Out of nowhere, status quo wall pops up. Big barbed wire, lots of crocodiles. And I start to think, am I really going to leave this job? I make a lot of money as a 24-year-old. I get to travel the country on somebody else's dime. I love the guy I work for. I love the people I work with. Why am I leaving? Right? And for months, I'm downstairs in my office, I'm pushing paper, I'm filling out Excel spreadsheets, like what's the lease going to look like? How much money can I make? What's the P&L? What do I need to hire people for? And all that was just a front for my fear, right? That was just analysis paralysis. And lucky for me, I had the best franchise advisor of all time, my wife. And she said, I want you to do this. Because if you don't, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And she was right? If I had never said, I want to go become a franchisee, I would have regretted it forever. So she inspired me. That was my burn the boats moment. The next week I went in, I quit my job. I signed the franchise agreement, I sent it in, and there was no turning back. I burned the boats. It was not when I was first frustrated. I didn't burn the boats until somebody that I cared about said, you can do it. And I believe in you. Go make it happen. And this is what happened, right? That's 24, 25-year-old me doing my pre-sale. That right there with that Cricket cell phone, I think it was my first ever sale for myself. Still my favorite story of entrepreneurship of all time. And if that didn't happen, my life would be significantly different, right? But then it got me thinking, what about that phase? What did I learn about that phase where I was pushing papers and filling out spreadsheets? Because you're working with people that are doing that all the time, right? All the time, they're stuck in that. And it got me thinking about a story that I heard about the Coast Guard, which I thought was really relevant. So you all know what the Coast Guard is, right? The Coast Guard is the police and the ambulance of the water. So I want you to imagine that you are now a member of the Coast Guard and you're sitting in headquarters. And over the radio comes in, mayday, 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 ship is going down. So you throw your gear on, you jump in the helicopter, and you hightail it out there. They're 20 miles off coast. And you get out there, and when you show up, all you see is this ship that's turned over and all these people in the water. What do? Well, the Coast Guard, they train you, and they say the first thing you do is look for anybody that's in immediate danger. So is there anybody that's drowning? Is there anybody that's hyperventilating, having a seizure, getting eaten by a shark? Obviously, if they're getting eaten by a shark, try to save them first. But assuming that nobody's in immediate danger, what do? And they say you post up in one side, and then you got to decide who to save. And you can't decide based on physical appearance, right? You're just not going to be able to tell who can make it longer. You can't decide based on age. You can't decide based on who pays more U.S. tax dollars, right? You can't decide on attractiveness, although I assume some of them probably would like to do that, right? You can only decide on one thing, and you save the person that swims towards you. That's it. They swim towards you, you grab them, you throw them in the basket, they're off to safety. They swim towards you, you grab them, you throw them in the basket, and they're off to safety. That's how you do it. And it got me thinking a little bit about our industry and what is the version of people just sitting in the water. Our version of sitting in the water is, I think I'm going to keep my job. I'm going to get a promotion pretty soon. My kids are going to school in a few years. I got to make sure that I can pay those bills. I don't like the lease. I don't like the territory. My spouse doesn't think that I would succeed in XYZ franchise. We see it all the time, right? 90% of the people that get into that process tell us no. So what do we do? What do we do? Is it just a numbers game? I've heard that all the time. Just throw a bunch of people in the top of the funnel and enough are going to fall out of the bottom. Sure, that's probably somewhat true. But how can we be even better? How can we take people out of their pain, over their status quo wall, burn their boats all the way into life change? So I'm going to read about it. I love to read business books. I mean, we've got some great business trainers coming here today. And when I go and I read business books, lots of them tell me, create a guarantee. Take the risk away from your customer. No problem. So imagine selling a franchise like this. We will refund your franchise fee in full at any time if you're dissatisfied. We guarantee your satisfaction on every product we sell with a full refund. We can't do that. We can't tell them to hold on to their franchise receipt, and if they don't like it, we'll trade it out for another franchise in 60 days, right? It just doesn't work in our industry. And so the guarantee doesn't work. Shoot. Those were what all the books told me to do. So now what? There has to be a framework. There has to be a way for us to be better at pulling people out of their pain. And I believe this next book was a little bit of divine intervention for me and for Franchise Sidekick. And so Tyler and I started going through a book called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And when I read this book, I was like, this is it. This is the framework that I need to understand in order to pull people out of pain. And here's what Donald said. Well, first off, Donald's a marketer. And as a marketer, he wants to understand how to tell stories people love. And he says the framework to understand about the movies, the books, and the real world stories that you love is this. He says there's a character. We're following that character, and the character has a problem. The character meets a guide. That guide, of course, in all his or her wisdom, they have a plan. They take the character through the plan, they call him to action, and then after they get called to action, they end in either success or failure, hopefully success. And I said, this is the framework that I need to understand to try to pull people out of pain. So let's think about it from a movie perspective. One of my favorite movies is Back to the Future. Yeah, right? Back to the Future. Yeah, you know how old we are when we love Back to the Future, right? That's good. Who's the main character? Marty McFly. Marty McFly's got a problem. He's stuck in 1955. So what's he do? He goes and he knocks on the door of 1955 Doc Brown and he says, Doc, I got a problem. I'm stuck in 1955 and I don't have any plutonium to get back home. And Doc says, I think I can come up with a plan. So Doc says, I'm going to harness lightning, I'm going to throw it down the wire, and I'm going to put it right back into your flux capacitor. But here's what I need you to do, Marty. I need you to be on this road in this car going 88 miles an hour at this exact moment. He called him to action, right? Marty's there, he does it, he gets the lightning into the time machine, and boom, he sails back to a better version of 1985. The exact story here that Donald Miller just said. Right? Think about your favorite movie. We could go through all of them, and I would bet they follow this structure. What about real world? What about the people that you work with in a franchise, right? They are the character. Right, you're working with somebody right now who has a problem. I don't know what that is. They don't like their job. They don't like working weekends. They want more money. They want more purpose. Whatever. They have pain in their life. This is the big thing to understand here. You are the guide. You are the person with the wisdom. You are the person with the plan. You are the person that's responsible to pull them out of the pain over the status quo wall into life change. It's a big responsibility. You are the guy that gives them a plan. You say, follow this discovery process, and then once you become a franchisee, follow the model, and you're going to be successful. You call them to action. Come to a confirmation day. Sign a franchise agreement. You've been approved. You've got 10 days. Whatever your call to action looks like, you call them to action. They make a decision, and they're either going to end in success or end in failure, right? Hopefully success. But 90% are not going to move through. So we need to get better. And then Donald Miller goes on to say, the thing we need to understand about this story is the character is not just a character. The character is somebody who is trying to save people in their own life. The character is somebody that's trying to live better for the people that they love. What does that make them? That makes them a hero. The character is the hero. See, us, companies all the time, we want to position ourselves as the hero. Buy my franchise and you're going to love it and you're going to live forever the way you want to. That's not what they want. They don't want somebody else to do it for them. They want to be taught. They want to be given a model or a framework in order to go be the hero of their own story. So Donald says they're the hero. You're the guide with the proven process. And to be a good guide, you've got to do a couple of things. One, you've got to prove to them that you've got a plan that will work. Two, you've got to build trust. And three, and the most important, they have to always feel like you have their back. And so Tyler and I, again, I said this is like divine intervention for us. This book hit us right at the time where I was trying to decide what my future was going to look like. Was I going to go live a life of leisure, or did I want to stay purpose-driven? This book helped me decide that I really wanted to stay purpose-driven. And we said, we're going to help more people than anybody in history go buy a franchise. And if we're going to be really good at that, and we have the back of the hero, what does that make us? Well, who's got the back of Captain Kirk, Spock? Who's got the back of Marty McFly, Doc Brown? Who's got the back of Dr. Watson? Or Sherlock Holmes, Dr. Watson, right? These are sidekicks. These are sidekicks to the hero. So if we're helping people buy franchises and we're going to have their back and be their sidekick, Franchise Sidekick was born. And we said every hero needs a sidekick. Sorry, give me a second, my throat's dry. So this is where Franchise Sidekick come from, and this is what I want to talk to you guys about for the rest of my time. Because we want you to realize, like I said, it's not just us that are the sidekicks. You are also the sidekicks. You've heard this theme of better together, and so this is my official invitation to you to do two things. One, recognize that you're a sidekick, and two, if you accept our challenge, go through Franchise Sidekick training to become a sidekick yourself. Become better at helping people move out of pain, over their status quo wall, to burn the boats, all the way into life change. So how do you do that? What does training look like to become the best sidekick in the world? Well, that's where our 4 speakers come in, because all 4 of our speakers today and tomorrow are going to be talking about how to overcome fear. Fear is our enemy. Status quo wall is our enemy. So all 4 of them are going to be talking about how to overcome fear. Number 1, sidekick training number 1, Michelle Poehler. She's going to be up here in just a few minutes. You see the book there in front of you. She wrote a book about facing her 100 greatest fears and how she mentally got ready to go do that and what she does in order to do it, right? If you want to understand how to help other people overcome their fears, look at your own, right? When I looked at my own Anytime Fitness story, it helped me understand how to go help people. When you understand how Michelle overcomes her fears, you're going to be better at helping other people. She's had over 70 million people listen to this story, and we get an opportunity to do it today. Second sidekick training, and one that I'm very excited about. In fact, this is the one that the most of you have come up to me and said that you're excited about. Later today, we get Jeremy Miner. Jeremy Miner is the founder of 7th Level, and 7th Level has been named the fastest growing sales training company in the country for 2 years in a row by Inc. magazine. What does that mean? When you're the fastest or you're the best at this, it means he's the best in the world at the psychology of overcoming fear, the psychology of moving people into buying decisions. We talked to him about our industry. We explained how big our status quo wall, and he's going to come with some specific strategies on how we help move people out of their pain, over the status quo wall, burn the boats into life on their own terms, right? Sidekick training number 2. Sidekick training number 3. Hopefully some of you know this man because he is my favorite franchise speaker of all time. First time I saw him, I fell in love. Dan Monaghan. Dan's one of us, right? At 19 years old, Dan bought his first franchise. He then went on to found WSI, which is a digital marketing franchise. He's also the founder of Clear Summit Group, which you see here, and all these brands that we know and love. He's also the IFA Foundation chair. But Dan is going to talk to us about technology and how technology can help our clients overcome fear. And you're going to see how we've applied some of his methods tomorrow when Tyler and Michael come up here with me. And then fourth, what happens when it works out? What happens when somebody overcomes fears and they have a great opportunity to sell their business or whatever else and it works out? Well, that's why we have Sidekick training number 4 and Sanira Medhani. Sanira Medhani is the founder of Stacks. And she tells the story about how challenging it was because she almost took a job instead of founding Stacks. Could you imagine what a travesty that would be if she never founded Stacks? She talks about being a minority woman walking into rooms trying to raise money where other people like her weren't there and the fear that she had to overcome in order to do that. And all she did to overcome that was raise several versions of capital, or several layers of capital, found Stacks, and go on to grow it into a huge company. And at like 34 years old, she sold it for $1 billion. It wasn't just valued at $1 billion. She sold it for $1 billion at 34 years old. I haven't met a lot of people that make me feel like a peanut, but she does. I mean, she is legit, and she's going to be here tomorrow talking to us about it. And we also have a collaboration lab. We also have a bunch of content sessions with some of the Mount Rushmore of franchising that are going to be on our own panels. And if you go through all that, you are officially invited to join Team Sidekick, and we hope you do. Right? And it's really important that you understand something about being a sidekick. And I'm just going to fully lean into this superhero thing, so I hope you don't mind. I'm going to talk about Spider-Man. I'm just leaning into this thing. Spider-Man. In 1962, they started writing stories and making movies about Spider-Man saving New York City, right? He's an awesome hero. But what happened recently? Recently, he joined the Avengers. So from 1962 until 2018 on his own, he was saving New York City. And in 2018, he joins the Avengers, and in a very short amount of time, what does he do? He saves the world. By himself, he saves the city. As a team, he saves the world. And that's what we're out to do. We're out to create the greatest client experience in history to help people reduce their risk when buying a franchise. And we need your help. We need you to be on Team Sidekick with us. And the most important part of a team is you have to understand your role. What's our role? What's your role, right? If we're playing a sport together, I need to know if you're zigging so I can pass you the ball. So I'd like to start, if you don't mind, with what we would like your role to be as part of Team Sidekick. Number 1, be great at helping people overcome fear. So it's interesting because we often talk about what's more important, the director or the brand. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's the director, and here's why. Because if that is a great brand, perfect for the client, but if the sales director can't get that person out of their pain over the status quo wall to burn the boats into that, it doesn't matter. That person never has an opportunity to leave that pain, and so we're never going to know whether or not they could have been a great franchisee there. So if the director isn't good at overcoming fear, we may not ever send a lead there, right? So that's number 1. We want you to be really great at a sidekick, having a plan, helping people overcome their fear. Number 2, and we all know this, we need you to have really successful franchisees. That's the thing that we're counting on you for. That's the thing that we rely on you for. That's the thing that we want so badly because we've all been there. Right? If you get a call from somebody that you've placed in a franchise and they say, I wish you wouldn't have introduced me to them, that was a pretty bad decision. That is one of the only phone calls that I get that just make my heart absolutely sink. I hate it. And on the reverse side of it, when I get a call from somebody that says, this is the best decision of my life, I've been doing this for a year, I just made $1 million, I'm going to buy more, that is when your heart leaps. Right? And so that's why it's so important that we have successful franchisees that we can talk to as we move people forward. So those are the 2 things that we hope that you will do as part of Team Sidekick. What are we going to do? Number 1 is more leads with fewer relationships. We're different at Sidekick in the way that we're structured. I even heard several of you say it last night. It's kind of hard, right? Because we right now have 15 advisors. There's not hundreds of us here in order to network with. But here's the thing that I want you to understand, and I'm going to explain it more in just a minute. We're structured different, which means every one of those advisors is significantly outperforming the industry. Every one of those advisors is working with 50 or more clients at a time. So where there may be fewer opportunities to network, they can be significantly more impactful, right? And so what we want to do is we want to offer you an opportunity to have fewer relationships to manage in order to get more leads. And all you got to do is influence a couple and they can seriously fill a pipeline. I mean, there's a few brands in here. I mean, Desi and Jason and others have just told me about brands that they love and they've just been filling those brands with leads. That's what can happen here. And number 2, our commitment to you is we are going to send you people that are better prepared. Yeah, sure, Ryan, how are you going to do that? Well, we're going to talk a heck of a lot tomorrow about how we're going to do that. And I hope after you see what we do with these clients, you understand why they are better prepared when they get to you. And a big piece of that is our structure. And I want to talk to you about one more really important things for us. And it's something that we call be a rifle, not a shotgun. And I love this industry. I love this model. And that doesn't mean that it can't get better. And I do believe there are some things that are challenging with it. And it's the fact that the majority of the people that are advising clients are a shotgun. They are doing everything. They're hitting all the targets kind of soft. They can't be great because they've got so much to do. And when we wanted to put this together, we said we want to be the best in the world at the client experience. We want our advisors to do one thing all day, every day, and that is help people that are looking for a franchise. We don't want them to do all the other stuff. We want to go and be a rifle. We want to hit the bullseye as hard as stinking possible, because we knew if we asked them to do the traditional model, which is build content, generate leads, qualify them and schedule them, otherwise known as the brain damage section, right? If we ask them to do that and then move people into the franchise discovery process, and then that's going to take 8 to 12 weeks. And then after that, if somebody does buy a franchise, we're going to ask them to invoice and go through collections and track KPIs so we can get better and follow up with clients. It's too much. It's really, really hard to be great if that's what you're really committed to. What is your core competency is to be great at the client experience. You can't do a bunch of other stuff. And so Tyler and I got thinking about, well, how do we make our advisors great? First off, they're great people, but how do we give them a system to operate in to make them even better? And lucky for us, we were kind of studying a company at the time called Redfin. I don't know if you've ever heard of this company, but it's a real estate brokerage company. And it was a model for us in some ways with Franchise Sidekick. And here's what I mean. David Araker, the founder of Redfin, he was a traditional real estate broker. And he said, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because I'm doing too much. I just want to interact with clients. That's it. And so he broke out and he decided to create an organization of employees, employed brokers, and employed team around those brokers in order to support them. So his real estate brokers or agents were doing nothing but being out in the field working with clients. He's got a team that markets, finds leads, does the administrative work, does the legal work, and all the other stuff. And now it's 20 years later. This is one of the fastest growing real estate brokerages in the company. This will be their first $1 billion year. They've grown 800% in the last 10 years. Their agents do 3 times more deals than anybody else in the industry. And here's the part that I love the most. Because they're all one organization, he can survey every single client that they work with to understand what they thought. He puts the scores on the website for each one of his agents, and the next big home that comes in or the next big client that comes in, guess who gets it? The people with the best client experience score. That's the way that it's supposed to be. If you do really well with the clients, you're supposed to be the ones getting the best opportunities. And we said, how do we do that? So this is what we decided to do with Franchise Sidekick. We are an organization as a team. We are employed. We all have we're accountable to each other. We know our roles. And this is the way that we go about it, right? Top of it, funnel. We've got a momentum team that creates our content, does our lead generation. Our specialists are amazing. I'm going to show you how many calls they made last quarter. It will blow your mind, right? They're out there qualifying all of them, scheduling them with our advisors. Our advisors that then get to go focus on the Sidekick 7. When I say we want to be the best in the world at something, that's what it is right there. That's Sidekick 7, that client experience. This is what we are striving to become the best in the world at. And you see Shannon up here. She gets to go and work with clients all day, every day, over 50 of them at a time, going through that process. And then if somebody that she's working with buys a franchise, our admin team and our marketing team, they're going to come behind and they're going to do the invoicing, the collections, the KPI tracking, the client follow-up, all of that. And again, it allows Shannon to be a rifle, not a shotgun, and be the best in the world at that. Why? This is why. Because we recognize the characters that we're working with are heroes of their own story. Here you see a picture of a dad who wants to have a better future for his son, wants to show his son that he can do something better. I know that's a big part of why I do this. I want my kids to see it, right? Meets a sidekick. The sidekick, Shannon, then takes them through the Sidekick 7. This is our plan. Calls them to action. Burn the boats. I know you're in pain. I know you've got a huge status quo wall there. I know you want to think staying in your job or working weekends or working nights is okay. It's not. Overcome that status quo wall. Call them to action. And then if it all works out and they buy one of your brands and they follow the system, they get to do LOIT. That's what we call life on your terms. That's what we want to move everybody towards. If you know your role and we know our role, we are better together. And it is all in the purpose of what? You probably thought I was going to say helping other people. Well, actually, what I believe is if you want to live one of the best lives you possibly can live, the goal is to help other people. And Zig Ziglar said it best. You can have everything in life that you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. That's what we're here to do. I invite you to be the best sidekick you can be. I invite you to help us in our mission of helping people reduce their risk when buying a franchise. And I'm super excited that you're all here. So thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us on the Sidekick Life, where we highlight true sidekicks, entrepreneurs who've got their customers' backs, solve real-world problems, and after helping enough people, get to live the life they've always dreamed of. We'll see you next time.